Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Atlanta Thrashers franchise mode here in NHL 21. So in last episode we had free agency and we started up the season simulation, and as you can see so far we're 19, 13, 3, and 2, so pretty good start I would say for the most part. We kind of struggled off the gate, but since I think it was this last month that we actually started playing pretty good. As you can see, yeah, we had a decent amount of wins in this month, but we kind of dropped off a little bit near the end, but they were both OT losses, so games that we almost won, but we didn't. And yeah, so we're on January the 1st with a pretty solid record, and I don't know if we're going to be really making much trades for our roster because, our roster is actually simulated pretty decently the way it is right now. Guys like Malkin have been good, Bergeron and Kovalchuk, that top line always does pretty good. And then you get into the second line. It's been a little bit more quiet, I would say, but it's still producing, which is good. Third line has been pretty solid as well because you got guys like Kuznetsov, who's been carrying that third line, and also Jalen Kemp, who's made the NHL, has been pretty solid as well, picking up 19 assists in 37 games. So, and then you get to the fourth line. It's been pretty quiet, but the fourth line doesn't get out there that often. Bobrovsky, I think, gets some power play time, so that's probably why he's getting a decent amount of points. And then as for our defensive pairings have been pretty solid as well. Everybody is plus, so that is great news. Our youngster Gordon Ferguson, who we drafted in a couple episodes ago, he's been pretty good. And yeah, I'm hoping that he can continue like that. The only thing I don't like about playing Ferguson is that we have to actually scratch Blugis. But I think at some point maybe we move on from Brody because he's usually the defenseman that's always out there for a lot of goals against. So I think eventually maybe we move out from Brody and then we could still keep Blugis. But for right now, Brody's definitely our worst defenseman in terms of keeping the puck out in the net. He's solid offensively though, so he's not too bad, I guess you could say. But anyways, before we simulate more and get through the trade deadline and get the rest of the season done with, we do have one comment to go over, and that is from HawksFan88. He says, pretty good start. Hopefully the team can keep it up. And then I said, yeah, I hope so. I feel like maybe adding Camilleri still to increase our scoring to an extent, but I don't know what we would give up. And HawksFan says I wouldn't do it. I think our top 6 is set. So yeah, I don't think we're probably going to be making a trade for Camilleri like I was suggesting, but if for some reason we need to by the deadline, maybe we will. If there's a top 6 player that goes down, because right now we have 2 depth defensemen, but we don't have any depth forwards really except for Schiavello, so that's why I was suggesting bringing in Camilleri to an extent, because if, say, somebody like Kovalchuk goes down, that can completely makes us a worse team. So we could still pick up Camilleri at some point, but I don't know if we will. Depends really if we get any injuries, and if they're long-term injuries to a top 6 player or whatnot. So, but yeah, let's continue assimilating and see how this team does down the stretch. Pretty interesting to see if we could actually, well, we probably will make it back to the playoffs for sure, I would say. But I'm kind of curious on if this team could go past the 3rd round this year, because we've been progressively getting better each year. A few years ago we were on round 1, then round 2, then round 3. And yeah, maybe this year we're playing in the Stanley Cup Finals. That'd be pretty awesome if that's the case. If not, it's not the end of the world. It's still a good year of production probably from our young guys. So let's go 1 month to February the 1st. See if we could get some wins under our belt. There's another OT loss, but then we pick up an OT win as Jackson Robbins goes down in the AHL, so that is the top goalie that we have down there, who's a 79. Luckily, just an AHL injury, though. But our team is dropping a few games to start this month, which is not a great sign. So I'll put Robbins back in. Game against Washington is a loss. Yeah, we're losing a lot of games all of a sudden. That's not good. But there's a win, 5-1. Okay, maybe that will turn the tides of this month. Yep, that one's going to turn the tides of this month. We won 3 in a row now, after 6 in a row that we lost or something like that. But that's what happens when you have a young team. You go on losing streaks sometimes, so kind of makes sense. Let's put in, wait, where were you? Baikov was a right D. He was probably in where Prost is, I think. Maybe not actually where Prost is. I don't remember where it is. I'm just going to go best lines I think I've been doing, so we'll just go like that. But Ivanov is still a 79, and he's been playing great down there in the AHL. So him and guys like Hillen and Cleary all could jump up to the NHL next season. I don't know if we're going to keep around Clinch, who we traded for a couple years ago. But Cleary, Ivanov, and Hillen could all be in the NHL by next season, which means we might have to get rid of somebody, or we could just kind of trade them away. Wolski's jumping up to a 79, which is nice, and he's now a -9 on the season. Yikes. The fourth line wasn't that badly minus when I just last looked, right? I think so. I think the fourth line just got torn to shreds. Or maybe in general our plus minus just took a huge hit because of those last few games before our winning streak. Yeah, I think that's what the case is. Yeah, our team just took a huge hit. Oh well, hopefully it gets better because we're now on a winning streak. And then we tie with Chicago, and we're going to win over Detroit. So a good way to end the month, but it was a little bit of a struggle to start this month. And that's probably where it affected our team's plus minus, because we lost 4-3 here, we lost 3-2 there, lost 3-2, lost 6-3, lost 3-2, and then won 5-1 finally. So yeah, it probably was the start of that month that affected the plus minus of those players a lot. But it's good to see us now with a 25-15, 4-5 record on the season, which has us top of our division, tied for top actually with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Hurricanes are right up there with us as well. Flyers are within reach as well. But yeah, that Atlantic division is still pretty tight for the most part, except for the top two teams are now kind of way ahead, like especially Tampa Bay with 71 points on the season. That's crazy that the last wildcard spot has 57 points, but we have like the top spot in our division with 59 points. So yeah, it's getting kind of intriguing. We also have the least amount of games played in our division, and we're leading it, so that's also a good sign. Let's continue to simulate up to the trade deadline. We're also going to take a look at what AI trades go through. Hopefully there's something interesting at the trade deadline that happens. Let's go to the 24th. Game against Dallas, and Javon Abney's been injured in the AHL. We'll go replace player. That's a loss to start the month, but then we bounce back with a 7-3 win and a nice 4-0 shutout. There's a loss again. Another loss. Yeah, this team is still a little bit streaky, but it could be because we're a young team. Like, we're going to have our hiccups now and again. Multiple players are eligible to be back. I don't even remember who is where, so I'm just going to go best lines again. Because this AHL team is absolutely stacked. Like, you got 70s all over the place. So I honestly don't know where most players are in terms of the lineup down there. Dennis Gauthier's on waivers. I don't think I need another depth defenseman, and he's dropped to a 75, so I'm going to decline that. Game against the Sens, we tie, and then we lose to San Jose. We lose to Pittsburgh. Yikes, this has been a bit of a rough month, and we're now in third in our division. We had games in hand. Now we only have one game in hand, and we have 2 more points than the Rangers. Yikes. Yeah, that is not a good month from us at all. Because the Canadians, who are in the wildcard spot, has 72 points. We have 68 points. Like, the wildcard spot in the Atlantic has more points than the leader of this division, which is the Penguins with 71. That is ridiculous. Yeah, we kind of fell off a lot during that month. Like, I still think this team could use like somebody like Mike Camilleri. But I'm not sure if we will trade for him or what. Because we are kind of having our like hiccups where we last like one entire month without playing that good. Let's enter this trade deadline and see what happens. I think we should try and maybe trade for somebody to help us out. Like, Camilleri is really intriguing still to me. Because he's like an 85. Like, we could just bring him up as like a depth option, and then we could always send down I don't know who I would send down. Probably like Edmonds. But I don't really know what I would have to give up to get somebody like Mike Camilleri. If there's even any offers LA would give us. Like, what do you want for Camilleri? Soderstrom was a top 6 forward prospect, 3rd and 5th. And, oh my god. Oh, now we're getting offered Mike Camilleri. That's actually kind of funny. Throw out a trade offer. Now they're wanting to give us Camilleri, a 3rd, a 6th, and some top 6 defensive prospect. For Ruby Latikainen, a 2nd and a 4th. Now, it's not a terrible offer because obviously the 2nd just becomes a 3rd, and then the 4th becomes a 6th. And then we get an extra top 6 defensive prospect, which I don't know what he looks like. And then we give up a top 6 forward prospect, and we get Mike Camilleri. Let me take a look at this. Latikainen, 73 at 22. He's not going to pan out, to be honest. Well, he could pan out, but he's probably not going to be that great of a player. At least for our team, I would say. He could be an AI player team. And then Justin Bowles, 26 years old, 78 overall. That's not terrible. It's not a bad defensive option, but I don't really know how this guy simulates. Screw you, New Jersey, get out of here. I'm not making a trade with you. And is again, oh, it gets rid of the entire trade. See, this is what EA really needs to fix. Like when you get offered trades, it shouldn't get rid of every single thing you just looked at. Like that's completely dumb. Well, I don't really know if we're gonna trade for Camilleri or what. Let me go back to the trade finder and see if we could find out a different offer for Camilleri. That was a decent trade offer, but then like this stupid AI thing. It's always like, gonna be a top 6 forward prospect, or we can give up a second and a third only to get him, which I think is low risk, high reward. So I am going to do this, even though Hawks fans said probably he wouldn't trade for Camilleri. I think I'm going to trade for him just because I think this team needs a veteran presence, and we are going to have to send down Isaiah Edmonds. But I need this team to be a little bit better, I think, going into the playoffs, just to give us a little bit of an offensive boost, because obviously this is going to help us out a lot in terms of our forward core, I think, going forward. So we're going to keep that like that, and I'm not going to make any more trades because trading for Camilleri is more than enough, I think, for this team to actually be a good team. So let's get into changing up our roster a little bit. So what do we got here? Did it send Camilleri down? I'm just curious. No, it didn't. It sent down Edmonds. Okay, good. Edmonds needs to be thrown in the lineup, so we're just going to go best lines down there in the minors. But where are we going to throw in Mike Camilleri is the problem. See, Henricius has been good, but he's not been like really lighting it up. Kemp has been pretty good. I could send down Likachev to the 4th line, and then Bobrovsky I might take out of the lineup. What could we do? What could I do? Bork hasn't been great either, has he? 18 goals, actually, that's not too bad. But I mean, playing on the 3rd line, he should be still getting a decent amount of goals with somebody like Jalen Kemp there. I think I'm going to take Bobrovsky out of the lineup, but he's been good. Wolski hasn't been lighting it up, and he's a minus 15. So actually, we're going to take Wolski out of the lineup. I know he's like a young prospect and whatnot, but yeah, that minus 15 and stuff like that, we need to change that around. So I'm going to put in Mike Camilleri, who I know is a good fit for this 2nd line. And actually, where else does Camilleri fit? Well, he fits the top line, but he's not going to get up there. Unless we wanted to separate Malkin with the rest of these guys, but I don't think so. Let's take a look at what else we could do. I think we're going to leave it like that. Yeah, it does suck having to take out somebody like, who is it, Wolski, but I think it makes sense because Wolski's been pretty bad defensively. We get in a veteran like Camilleri, who we could always trade away if he doesn't really pan out after 1 year. But he's been a pretty good point player, and in the playoffs he hasn't really got much experience, so we might as well give this guy a shot. And I mean, only give up a 2nd and a 3rd. I think it's worth the little risk and maybe the little change in the lineup, and hopefully that helps our team going into the playoffs. Yeah, I think that is good to go. Let me just make sure everything is good down there in the AHL, which it probably is. So let's simulate the rest of the season, find out also those trades that the AI made, which should be interesting to see if there was anything outrageous. So let's take a look at those trades first. So player pick and trading, so that one's just some random prospect, but Mike Greer goes to Pittsburgh. Marco Sturm goes to Europe for some random prospect and a 3rd. A 3rd and Darren Quint go to Minnesota for some prospect and a 4th. Rangers get a 1st and a 2nd for some prospect, goalie, and 2 4ths. Chris Phillips goes to Detroit from Phoenix for some prospect and a 5th. The Rangers get a 1st and a 7th and a goalie prospect for Dane Cleary and a 3rd. Wow. Interesting. Some more prospects. Oleg Kavasha, though, going to Columbus as part of the deal. Brad Stewart goes to Europe as part of the deal. Same with Bates Battaglia. Yeah, a lot of these are just trades with EA-generated guys, but Brian Southerby and Matthew Dandino hit Tampa Bay. Jeff Friesen goes to Carolina. Alex Tanguay goes to Pittsburgh. That's a really good pickup for Pittsburgh. Randy Robitaille goes to Detroit. What else do we got here? Brian Allen goes to Tampa Bay. Mike Camilleri we traded for. Adam Deadmarsh, Dave Scatchard, and 2 others go to Ottawa from the Islanders for a first and a prospect. And in Arizona, or Phoenix, you could say, gets Bear Jackman in the 7th from the Rangers. So no real huge trades, I would say, but yeah, we're starting to see a lot of non-created players get traded, so it's not as interesting as it has been in previous years. But let's get the rest of the season done with and see how Mike Camilleri could help us down the stretch. Hopefully he could get us into being a really good playoff team this year. Because even though we have been a really good playoff team the last few years, I just wanted to upgrade our scoring a little bit. So let's get 3 games done. We lose almost all 3 of them, but we do beat Chicago 6-2. We got to be careful because we are on the... Yeah, we're not in the playoffs right now because the Flyers have leapfrogged us. We got a lot of divisional games coming up, so we got to win a lot of them. If we end up just barely missing the playoffs, I'm going to be kind of pissed off, but whatever. Let's go to the 17th. We win against New Jersey, which is good because they aren't a great team. Pittsburgh we lose against, which is ahead of us, and we lose to them as well. Oh my god, we're on a 4-game losing streak. And now Jalen Kemp's been injured. See, so that's like why I brought in Camilleri, is because if we got injuries, we had at least somebody to replace them. We'll go replace player. Come on, boys. I don't think we're going to make the playoffs. The way it's shaping up, with actually, unless we can make a wild card spot, but we're now 6 points back of the Flyers, who have that last divisional playoff spot. We're only 4 points back of like the Canadiens, who have a the last playoff spot, and then also the Bruins are right up there too. So we might be able to catch one of those 2 teams, but this team needs to kind of turn it around. I don't know what the problem is with this team. It's a little bit streaky. Let's get these last 3 games done. There's a runner loss. There's a win though. Jalen Kemp is back, which means Wolski's going to come out. Yeah, I think it's just keeping the puck out of the net that's our problem right now, and there's a nice 5-1 win. Okay, how are we standings wise? We are 6 points back of the Penguins with 2 games in hand, and we are only 2 points back of the Bruins, so we might be able to leapfrog the Bruins down these last few games. Hopefully we could get past those, knock out the Bruins out of the playoffs. We do have a huge game up against them right there. That might decide who makes the playoffs. Let's see what happens. Lose, win, tie. Okay, so some points. How are we standings wise? We have been passed by the Rangers now too. Damn, I didn't realize the Rangers were that close to us. Oh, Boston's still in that last playoff spot with 83 points, which is the exact same amount as the Rangers have. And we have 82 points. Oh, this is going to be very tight till the end, isn't it? It's either going to be us, the Rangers, or the Bruins who make the playoffs. And we got a game against the Rangers right after the Bruins. So these 2 games are going to be literally like playoff games. So I think I'm going to slow simulate these games. Well, not slow simulate them, but real-time simulate these 2 games because these are crucial games for our team. Let's see if we can beat Boston. This is probably the most crucial one, but still. First period against Boston, we are down 1-0. It is some Horton guy beating Carey Price, not good. Second period, we're still down 1-0. And let's see what happens in the third. Come on, boys. I usually don't do real-time simulations during the regular season, but these 2 games could decide if we make the playoffs or not. I don't really know what our problem is right now with this team, though. Because I think we're going to miss the playoffs, unfortunately. Maybe I shouldn't real-time simulate these. Yep, we're going to lose 1-0, right? Yep, we lose 1-0. Yeah, that's not good. I mean, it's a good defensive game, but yeah, that's not good. We have 4 games left on the season, which means we could finish with a maximum of, I think, 90 points on the gun. Which means, yeah, we need to start winning games now. We need to win every single game pretty much down the stretch now. Let's get these 4 games done. Just get them all done really quickly. Come on, boys. Game against Rangers is a win. There's another win. Okay. And there is 4 straight wins. And we actually made the playoffs because of those 4 straight wins. Are you kidding me? Wow. Well, I was not expecting us to win all 4 of those games. I literally wasn't. And of course, the hockey gods smiled upon us because Rangers missed by 1 point. And then also the Bruins missed by 1 point. Well, we just barely made the playoffs, and you know what happens when you just barely make the playoffs? You usually win the Stanley Cup or something. Hopefully that happens for us. But man, we just get lucky with those 4 wins. Like, we win 5-0 over the Rangers, which was the big win. Then we win 4-3 over Ottawa, 7-2 over Europe, and 7-5 over Carolina. So our offense just jumped up all of a sudden in those 4 games, and we just barely make the playoffs with 90 points. We almost actually leapfrogged the Flyers and the Penguins as well, but we're not going to have home ice in these entire playoffs unless we play a lower Central Division team like the Blue Jackets or something, or the Preds if we get to the final, but I don't think that's going to happen. Who knows? But we just barely made it. That is good with 39 wins on the season. I wouldn't say it was a successful season, but it's a pretty good one, I guess, just to barely make the playoffs. Let's take a look at our player stats and the team stats for the season, and then we will see who we're going up against in round 1. So center-wise, Patrice Bergeron, 90 points on the season, 30 goals, 60 assists. A little bit less than last year, but still more goals. He's been a very good player for us so far. That's good to see. Malkin, 77 points. Not too bad. Less than last year as well, but still pretty solid. Kuznetsov, 56 points and 29 goals is very impressive. That's his best season yet. A lot more goals than he's ever scored before. So, yeah, very good season from Kuznetsov. Houghton had 55 points. Pretty good season from him. He has been on a little bit of a decline in terms of the point production, but still pretty good from him. And then Frolov had 32 points, so that's actually really good for a 4th liner. A lot better than he's been putting up in the past. 11 minutes on ice and 32 points. Not too bad. 16 goals. Then we go to our left wingers. Kovalchuk, 88 points on the season, which is way less than last year, but still pretty good from him. Almost the same amount of goals as last year. So I'll take that. Camilleri, how much did you put up with us? 17 points in 22 games, so he definitely helped us out offensively a bit. Didn't score a lot of goals, but picked up a lot of assists. Plus minus wasn't too bad either, so I think that was a good acquisition. Jalen Kemp, 51 points in his first season. He might have won Rookie of the Year, but he did miss 5 games because of injury. That's still pretty good. Henrich's only 45 points, so a little bit low for Henrich's, but he's been averaging still around 40 points. And then Likachev as well, 42 points, which is his second best in the NHL. Right wing wise, Brock Borg had 55 points, only 22 goals. So when we last looked, he had 18 goals. So that means since getting demoted to like the 3rd line, I think it was, he only picked up like 4 goals, which is not good. Bobrovsky, 33 points, and Wolski had 14 and 65 and was a minus 12. Defensively, Kondratiev, 24 points, Brody, 13 points, Wall, 13 points, and then Connolly, 12. Martinez, 9, and Ferguson had 8. Our plus minus looks so good at the start of this episode for our defensive core, but now the only good defensive man is Martinez with that plus 13. But Martinez is usually a pretty good plus defenseman. At least in his first 4 seasons he's been. And then goalie-wise, Carey Price was pretty solid, I would say. 31, 27, and 2. 3 shutouts and 908 save percentage and a 2.87 goals against. And Brian Elliott was not fantastic, but he was 8-4 and 3 with a 903 save percentage and a 3.21 goals against. Interesting. Let's take a look at who led the NHL in points and all that sort of stuff. Let's go by forwards, though. So Alex Ovechkin leads the NHL with 108 points on the season. Iginla also up there with 108 points. And then Joe Thornton, 106. Alex Hemsky, 102. Crosby was up there with 98 points, probably setting up Iginla a lot. So that's interesting. Most goals this year is Ovechkin, so he's going to win his 3rd straight Maurice Richard. So this guy is simulating like he does in real life. 96 overall now for him. Pretty insane season. He was only a plus 3, though. So Nashville must be still pretty bad. But look how much more goals he had than 2nd place. He had 12 more goals than Suhonen. Interesting. Let's take a look at the best defenseman for points. That's going to be Nick Ronwall with 70 points, which is kind of surprising. Dan Boyle also up there with 63, and Abraham Spezza. Interesting. Dallas actually had 2 defensemen in the top 4 for points, which is pretty crazy. Jonathan Girard, Andrei Markov, Wade Redden, Chris Pronger, Derek Morris. Best goalie this season, Marc-Andre Fleury comes back from injury after last season where he barely played, and looks like he's going to win a Vezina again, which means a Sharks goalie is going to win the Vezina for the 3rd straight season, which is pretty crazy. Most shutouts this year, though, was from Vaucoon and Dan Cloutier. The best save percentage by a starter was... Well, Brent Johnson was actually really good for Ottawa. But Rick DiPietro could win it too. Jay Giguère's up there, and then Marc-Andre Fleury. So Giguère might actually end up beating Fleury. It depends on goals against average, I guess. Which, in that case, yeah, Fleury has the best. So it's either Fleury or Giguère, I say. DiPietro's an honorable mention, but he didn't play that much games. So, but it looks like Ottawa had some really good goaltending from DiPietro and Johnson. Both of them split time, and they both played really good. So they might win the William M. Jennings this year. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Actually, rookie skater-wise, the best rookie this year for points was Jalen Kemp. So we're going to have the rookie of the year. So that's actually really nice to see. Even though he missed 5 games, he put up the most points for rookies. That is awesome. I haven't had a Calder winner in a long time, actually, I don't think. Let's take a look at the season standings. See how everything went down. So in the entire league standings, we finished 14th best in the NHL, but we just barely made the playoffs, which is nice. In terms of goals for per game, we were one of the best offensive teams, were we? Yeah, we were like one of the best offensive teams. I'd say like 12th or 13th. I don't know exactly, but still pretty good. Goals against per game wise, we were around mid-table with the 3.02, so that could improve a little bit. Power play percentage was actually really good. Our power play was top 10 in the league, 24.7%. And penalty kill percentage was not great, I would say, but it's still around mid-table at 82.6. So our special teams might have got us into the playoffs. Interesting. Now the question is, who are we going to be playing in round 1? It's probably going to be the winner of this division, which I think is it's probably going to be the Hurricanes, I would assume. We did just beat them 7-5, if that is the case. And we are going to be taking on Tampa instead. Ugh. Tampa Bay. That's not good. Tampa had 10 more wins than us in the regular season, but we've played Tampa a decent amount of times with Atlanta, and I've played them so many times with Detroit, it's ridiculous. But there's the playoff tree in case you guys want to take a look. Tampa and Atlanta, Europe and Ottawa, Carolina and Montreal. Those 2 teams actually played each other in, I think, 2006, if I'm not mistaken. And then you got Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, so the Battle of Pennsylvania, that's pretty cool. San Jose and Nashville in the West, Calgary and Edmonton, oh, that would be pretty cool to watch. Minnesota and Anaheim, and Dallas and Columbus. I'd say the 2 favorites out of this are Tampa and San Jose, but I don't know for sure. Let's take a look at Tampa's roster, even though we did play them a few years ago, I'm pretty sure. Just to see what they have. So, yep, they still have Brad Richards, Vinny LeCavalier, Martin St. Louis. That's a really good top line. And then they have a fantastic second line. Lassie Kuvasari, who was drafted by Chicago, but they signed for 1 year. He's playing alongside Henrik Sedin. Henrik Sedin in Tampa Bay for the last 5 years. And Vaclav Prospal. Yeah, that's a nasty top 6. Like, I mean, the top 6 is getting a little bit old. Like, Prospal's 36, St. Louis 35, Sedin's 31, LeCavalier's 30, same with Brad Richards. But it is a very good top 6. And then you get into their third line, and it's fantastic as well. Ben Clymer's not that great, I would say, but he's not bad. But then you get Chris Drury and Joseph Vasicek. So this team is very good, and I can see why they've been so good for the last few years. And fourth line-wise is not terrible. Jan Sickart, Adam Mayer, and then Felix Antoine Mercati. Did we have Adam Mayer at one point? Because I thought I had him for like a signing. No, I didn't. I was debating about picking him up, I think, for a fourth line at one time. Defensively, they got Dan Boyle, who we know just had a really good season, like he's had for the last few years. They also had Jonathan Girard, who was up there in points. Yeah, this is a filthy team. Pavel Kabina's there. Jackson Bellamy, not that great. So actually their defensive core, they have 3 good defensemen, but the rest I would say are pretty weak. Bellamy, Olesen, and Matthew Dandino. But it's a very veteran-heavy team for the most part. Goaltending-wise, they have David Abisher. So, oh yeah, I forgot that they lost Habu Bulin, but David Abisher is probably still simulating pretty well, at least in terms of wins. And then they also have Manny Fernandez as their backup. And in depth-wise, they have Cole Huckins, Brian Sotheby, and Wayne Primo. So overall-wise, I think we're probably going to lose just because of how good this team is. But who knows? Maybe we could be the team that just barely makes the playoffs and upsets them. So there's always a chance. And hopefully that chance happens in next episode. But anyways, let me know what you guys think down below. And I'll see you guys next time.